After jumping into the sea 99 times as a test of sincerity, I rejected his proposal to marry Robert. I agreed with him to jump into the sea 100 times as a test of my sincerity. But as I plunged into the seabed from the cliff for the 99th time, he publicly posted his marriage certificate with his childhood friend. I lay in the hospital, my body a wreck of comminuted fractures, wishing I were dead. At his wedding, he knelt and promised to protect her for a lifetime. Everyone mocked me, calling me delusional, saying I wanted to marry into a wealthy family even with a missing hand. But no one knew that my hand was bitten off by sharks when I saved him from them years ago. It wasn't until after my surgery that Robert finally remembered me. He waited outside the hospital room, his eyes filled with guilt. He promised to propose after I recovered and took the 100th jump. When he finished the divorce procedures and rushed to the cliff with 999 roses, all he found among the rocky shore was a farewell letter I left behind. Robert, I won't jump 100th time. There is no future for us. For the 99th jump into the sea, I wasn't scared as usual. Instead, my heart was overflowing with joy. Just one more jump, and I could finally marry Robert as I wished. Over 5 years, I had fallen from the cliff time and time again. I'd long lost count of how many times I'd broken my legs. At its worst, my spine was nearly shattered. Every time I lay in the hospital bed, unable to move, he would ostentatiously display affection with his childhood friend, Chloe. He would either bid extravagantly at auction for her or take her around the world in his private jet. It wasn't that I hadn't thought about giving up. But after each jump, I would receive a large sum of money from him as compensation. And that money was just enough to cover Daniel's treatment fees for 3 months. To save Robert, my hand was bitten off by sharks. After the amputation surgery, to win me over, he confessed his love 99 times. It was only on the 100th time that I finally agreed, tears in my eyes. But soon after we got together, Daniel was diagnosed with leukemia. The treatment costs were exorbitant, and I couldn't just stand by and watch him die. Helpless, I could only kneel before Robert, begging him to cover the costs. He didn't say a word, immediately transferring a large sum of money to me. Afterward, however, he made a deal with me. As long as I jumped into the sea 100 times as a test of my sincerity, he would propose to me. But after the 99th jump, I saw his highly publicized marriage certificate trending online. Something I couldn't obtain even after breaking my bones, he gave so easily to someone else. Before being pushed into the operating room, Daniel's doctor found me. He told me Daniel's condition had suddenly worsened and required immediate surgery. The surgery would cost $500,000. In my panic and helplessness, I could only call Robert. But the moment the call connected, I heard the sound of passionate moans from the other end. It was utterly familiar, the sound I once thought he would only make in my ear. Each gasp felt like a dull knife slicing through flesh, causing me extreme pain. But I didn't even have the right to hang up. I could only force myself to swallow the taste of blood and plead, "Robert, can you transfer some money to me? Daniel needs surgery right away." The moaning paused for a moment. Robert interrupted impatiently. "Why do you need money again? Do you love me or my money?" I had heard that question hundreds of times. Each time, I had declared my sincerity with all my might. But now, I was too weak to argue. I could only tell him with a trembling voice, "Today is my 99th jump into the sea." Robert fell silent for a moment, remembering that 3 days ago, when I was discharged from the hospital after recovering, I had agreed with him that I will jump again today. Yet, he had chosen this very day to announce his marriage. When he spoke again, his voice held a hint of guilt. "Wait for me. I'll have his assistant transfer the money to you right away." After hanging up, I asked the nurse to push me to Daniel's hospital room. Enduring the pain of my broken bones, I waited anxiously. I watched Daniel struggle, even vomiting blood, but the transfer notification from Robert never came. When I called him again, he cruelly hung up on me repeatedly. As Daniel took his last breath, covered in blood, I saw Robert's latest update on social media. He had spent millions at auction to buy Chloe a limited edition wedding dress. Robert kissed and embraced her before the camera, his eyes full of love. "I can't give you the whole world, but my world can be all yours." Meanwhile, I knelt before Daniel's cold body, crying until my voice gave out. When I stood up again, my eyes were filled with nothing but dead ash. 5 years, I had used the most brutal methods to prove my sincerity. Yet, I never saw him fulfill his promise. Now, the last flicker of light in my heart had been extinguished by his own hand. Robert, let's part ways here. For the rest of our lives, there is no need to meet again. With comminuted fractures all over my body, the surgery lasted a full 8 hours. But even after I woke up from the anesthesia, I received no news from Robert. Looking at the phone, silent as death, I felt only release. That night, I called Mother Agnes with a trembling hand. Mother Agnes, 8 years ago you said I was not ready for a spiritual life and couldn't enter the convent. But my only family is gone, and the fiancé I loved for years has married someone else. Am I now qualified to become a nun? I had a difficult fate since childhood and was sent to the convent by my parents, living there before taking final vows. After my parents died in an accident, I was heartbroken and begged Mother Agnes to help me take vows. But Mother Agnes refused. In my despair, I drove a speedboat into the deep sea. I originally intended to end it all, but instead, I accidentally saved Robert. For the past few years, I thought he was the driftwood I clung to before drowning. But I never expected him to be the final straw that broke me. Mother Agnes sighed heavily, not asking anything. She just told me to return to the convent as quickly as possible. After hanging up the phone, I suppressed the sorrow in my heart and asked a nurse for paper and pen. With deliberate strokes, I wrote the words farewell letter. 5 years of deep affection, ending up in just a few strokes. My body was covered in scars, making even holding a pen painful and trembling. This letter took me almost a month to write. During this month, Robert never visited me. He didn't even call once. Meanwhile, his social media was updated regularly every day. He held a grand wedding with Chloe, and afterward, they rushed off to honeymoon abroad. All the futures I had envisioned, he was living out with someone else. Fortunately, I no longer cared. As I endured the intense pain to write the last line of the farewell letter, the door to the hospital room was suddenly pushed open. I raised my eyes and met Robert's cold gaze. He glanced casually at the letter in my hand and asked indifferently, instead of recovering properly, "What are you writing?" I was emotionless, calmly folding the letter and tucking it under the pillow. Just handling some work matters after being in the hospital for so long. Robert didn't press further, just reached out to embrace me. The embrace I had craved so desperately in the past now made me sick to my stomach. I subtly pushed him away, my expression showing a distance and coldness I'd never had before. Robert paused, then frowned as he looked at me. "So what if I forgot to send you the money? Who are you putting on this act of being above it all for?" I closed my eyes, letting a tear fall from the corner. "Robert, you're so busy, why visit me? Aren't you afraid of upsetting your new wife?" My tone was so cold it made Robert frown. "All right, stop sulking. It's just 500,000. I'll transfer it to you now. Take this money to get Daniel the best treatment. After I'm done with things, I'll find a way to send him abroad for medical care." I stopped his hand that was reaching for his phone and smiled sadly at him. "No need. Daniel, he's already gone." The hand Robert was holding trembled violently. When he looked up again, his eyes were filled with layers of guilt. After a long silence, he spoke with a trembling voice, "Eliza, don't misunderstand. Chloe and I were just fooling around. The person who can truly be my wife is only you. When you take the 100th jump, I'll be waiting on the shore to propose to you." His eyes were full of sincerity, blocking all my potential rebuttals. I wanted to tell him there wouldn't be a 100th jump. After so many jumps, my body couldn't take it anymore. As for him, I didn't want him anymore either. But he didn't give me a chance to speak. Robert's phone suddenly rang. The word wife flashing on the screen stung my eyes. The man who just minutes ago was swearing he'd marry me now couldn't even spare me a glance. He just hurried towards the door. Before leaving, he handed me an invitation. It was for Chloe's birthday party. Seeing me hesitate to take it, his tone held a hint of warning. Chloe specifically asked me to invite you. Don't be late. Without waiting for my reply, he left without looking back. I paused, then took out the farewell letter with a trembling hand. Since he insisted I attend, despite my injuries, then I would use this opportunity to say goodbye to him forever. From now on, mountains high and rivers wide, we would never meet again in this life. As I was about to leave, using my crutches, I received a prosthetic limb that Robert had specially sent over. A mocking smile played on my lips. I knew he was afraid I would embarrass him. But now everyone in the city knew that Chloe was his wife. And I was just an insignificant passerby in his life. After hesitating for a long while, I decided to wear the prosthetic limb. Although I had never felt inferior because of my disability, I also didn't want people to talk about my missing hand too much. When I arrived at the hotel by taxi, Robert was welcoming guests, holding Chloe's hand, his eyes full of affection. The moment he saw me, he subconsciously shielded Chloe behind him. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. He was the one who forced me to come to the birthday party. But now he looked as if he had seen a monster. I pointed to the gift box in my arms, my smile tinged with sarcasm. Robert, I just came to deliver a gift. He didn't care, just stiffly told someone to lead me into the ballroom. As we brushed past each other, he leaned in and warned me in a low voice, just sit quietly in your seat. I'll pick you up and we'll go home together after the birthday party. Just as I was about to refuse, Chloe affectionately linked her arm through mine and pulled me into the ballroom. When we reached a spot out of Robert's sight, her expression suddenly changed. Bitch, you actually dared to come to my birthday party. Don't you love jumping into the sea? Then why don't you perform for everyone? Before I could react, she raised her hand and shoved me into the fountain pool in the center of the venue. I fell into the pool miserably, my wounds tearing open as I struggled. Blood slowly seeped out, staining the entire pool red. I clumsily tried to get up, but the intense pain throughout my body made me fall back into the water again and again. Everyone watched me with mocking expressions, like they were observing a monkey in a zoo. As if the humiliation wasn't enough, Chloe grabbed my severed arm and yanked off the glow VE I had specifically worn. I wondered why you couldn't get up. Turns out you're a cripple. You're even missing a hand, and you still think about seducing Robert? You don't actually think he's attracted to disabled people, do you? Her eyes were full of malice, laughing uncontrollably. But I sat in the water, my face numb. The surrounding crowd joined in the laughter. Unbearable insults poured in from all sides. In the midst of the chaos, Robert walked through the crowd towards me. Seeing my bloody, humiliated state, his breathing hitched. I forced back tears and instinctively reached out to him. But when he reached me, he stopped. He turned away, not looking at me again. He only ruffled Chloe's hair, his eyes full of indulgence. You're so grown up, but you still can't get rid of your mischievous habits. All right, stop watching the show. Quickly take her to change her clothes. His tone was so indifferent, as if I were someone of no importance. I swallowed the blood rising in my throat and let others drag me out of the pool. More than a dozen wounds all over my body had burst open, every movement was agony. I bit down on the inside of my mouth to stay conscious. No one offered to help me. I could only stagger towards the changing room using my crutches. Every step I took made me tremble with pain. The torturous pain reminded me how ridiculous I had been for the past 5 years. After changing clothes, I didn't hesitate. Carrying the blood-stained farewell letter, I resolutely left. After returning to the hospital to have all my wounds stitched up, I didn't stay for a moment, turning around and leaving the hospital. In a daze, I found myself at the cliff where I had jumped 99 times before. I sat on the cliff for a long time. Recalling the absurdity of the past 5 years, I finally realized that Robert had never truly loved me. If he had love in his heart, how could he watch me jump into the sea repeatedly until I was covered in injuries? How ridiculous that I only realized this today. Wiping away the tears from my eyes, I struggled to stand up and buried the farewell letter among the rocky shore at the cliff's edge. As I turned around after doing this, I was met with Robert's panicked eyes. With an expression of someone who had lost something and found it again, he rushed over and held me tightly. His voice was tinged with a sob. "Eliza, why did you leave without a word? Do you know how worried I was about you? I called you hundreds of times. Why didn't you answer? Are you still angry with me?" I broke free from Robert's embrace and forced a bitter smile. "My phone got water damaged and won't turn on. Today is Chloe's birthday. Why aren't you with her? What are you doing looking for me?" Perhaps remembering the humiliation I suffered at the birthday party, a trace of guilt flickered in Robert's eyes. Without explanation, he pulled my severed arm and forced a family ring onto it. I froze, looking at him in disbelief. This family ring was a family heirloom of the Roberts. Only the person who became Robert's wife was qualified to wear it. I had wished countless times that he would put it on my hand himself. But now, I no longer cared. After a moment of silence, I calmly extended my hand, wanting to take off the family ring. Robert frowned in displeasure and grabbed my wrist. "I've already made my intentions clear. Are you still going to act out? Keep this up, and you might not be able to handle the consequences." I was about to tell him that I no longer wanted this family ring. And I didn't want the position of Mrs. Robert either. Suddenly, a gasp sounded nearby. I looked up and saw Chloe stumbling towards us. Seeing she was about to fall, Robert let go of me without hesitation and pulled her into his arms. Chloe's gaze fell on my family ring. She smiled at me with a look of provocation, then turned and hugged Robert's arm, pouting and whining. "Robert, why did you just leave like that? Didn't you say you'd give me a birthday present? I've decided, I want the family ring Eliza is wearing." Robert's expression instantly turned cold. "No, this family ring can only be Eliza's. If you like it, I'll find you one with a better setting." Perhaps not expecting to be refused, a film of tears instantly covered Chloe's eyes. "I want this one. Anyway, she's missing a hand. Giving the family ring to her is just a waste." Before Robert could speak again, I took off the family ring with a cold face and threw it in front of Chloe. "You're right. A cripple like me doesn't deserve such a good ring. You can have it." Chloe gleefully reached for the family ring, but was stopped by a grim-faced Robert. "I said, this family ring is Eliza's. No one can take it." Robert snatched the family ring and tried to put it back on my hand. Behind us, there was suddenly the sound of splashing water. In a fit of anger, Chloe had jumped into the sea. Robert was so panicked he only managed to say one thing to me: "Jump one more time in 3 days, and I promise I'll propose to you." With that, he jumped in without hesitation. For 5 years, he always said he was afraid of water, not even willing to wait for me on the shore. I stood in the cold wind and laughed, tears streaming down my face. After throwing my phone into the sea, I turned and left the cliff, heading straight for the airport without looking back. 3 days later, when Robert finished his divorce procedures and rushed to the cliff with roses, all he found was the farewell letter I left along the rocky shore. Robert knelt on the cliff, clutching the farewell letter helplessly. He recognized every word in the letter, but he couldn't understand it at all. He couldn't believe that I had jumped into the sea 99 times but chose to give up on the last one. For 5 years, he thought he understood me well enough. And he never doubted my deep affection for him. After no matter how he treated me, I never entertained the thought of leaving. Unfortunately, my one-sided devotion was insignificant in his eyes. Robert took out his phone with a trembling hand, dialing my number repeatedly. But the only response was the automated message that the phone was turned off. He was so angry he smashed his phone. After standing there in a daze for a long time, he finally managed to collect himself. He coldly ordered his assistant, who was trembling and walking on eggshells beside him, "Go find Eliza's whereabouts. No matter where she went, I have to find a way to bring her back. The position of Mrs. Robert, only she can hold it." Watching his assistant hurry away, Robert's eyes were filled with tears. He struggled to his feet and stumbled towards the cliff. Looking down from the edge of the cliff, he felt a wave of dizziness. The cliff was so high, even he felt scared. Last time, he dared to jump only under the cover of night. But it wasn't for me, it was to save Chloe. Looking down in the daylight now, he was trembling with fear. Yet, I had jumped from this height 99 times. Moreover, I had severe acrophobia. Thinking back now, the last look I gave him that night wasn't calmness. It was the stillness that comes after despair and heartbreak. Robert didn't dare to think further. He felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, chilled to the bone. After hesitating for a long while, he squeezed his eyes shut. He mumbled to himself, "Eliza, this time I'll jump 99 times. I just beg you to come back to me." He didn't hesitate any longer and plunged into the icy, bone-chilling water without reservation. Even when he broke his wrist this time due to the wrong angle of impact with the water, he didn't utter a single cry of pain. Instead, a faint smile appeared on his pale, helpless face. "Eliza, as long as I jump 100 times, you'll come back, right?" Meanwhile, I had already boarded the plane. The moment it took off, I closed my eyes, exhausted. The wounds were still aching, but I felt an immense sense of peace. These past 5 years, I had lived too weary a life. For the sake of a vague love, I had stubbornly trapped myself. But now, the dream was over, and my heart was completely shattered. My obsession had cost Daniel his life and ruined my own. Fortunately, it wasn't too late, and I still had the courage to start over. The plane flew for 3 hours, arriving at a small northern town. I slept the entire way. It was the most peaceful sleep I had had in 5 years. After so many jumps into the sea, I was injured almost every month. For 5 full years, I would wake up every night from the pain of countless wounds. But I always gritted my teeth and persevered. I thought my persistence and love would eventually move Robert. Thinking back now, I had only made myself a laughingstock in everyone's eyes. A few moments of deep affection, eventually turning into foam. I couldn't heal the physical scars on my body, but being able to stay away from the person who caused me so much pain was enough. After getting off the plane, I saw Mother Agnes waiting in the crowd at a glance. Her eyes were filled with tears as she looked at me, wrapped in bandages. I looked back at her. As our eyes met, there was only tenderness in her gaze, nothing else. But I didn't cry. Instead, my face was filled with relief. Thankfully, when I was covered in wounds, there was still someone who cared about me, and I was finally able to come home. I returned to the convent. Here were my family. The sisters were indescribably heartbroken when they saw me. When they learned that Robert was the one who had hurt me so badly, their eyes filled with shock. "Robert? You mean that CEO Robert?" The news that he jumped into the sea 9 times in a row to win back his fiancée has been trending. They say he broke his spine but still cried out that he wanted to keep jumping. We thought he was so devoted, but we didn't expect him to be so despicable. I listened to the sisters' discussions, stunned. I couldn't understand how Robert would jump into the sea for me. Seeing I didn't believe them, the sisters handed me a phone. I casually clicked on the trending topic and saw Robert's extremely familiar face. He lay in the hospital bed, his face pale, just as pathetic as I once was. Facing the camera, he cried uncontrollably. "Eliza, I finally know how much pain you suffered. I was a jerk, forcing you to jump into the sea again and again. I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. I know you must be extremely disappointed in me, that's why you decided to leave me. It's okay, I'll prove my sincerity to you. When I jump 100 times, will you come back to me?" I abruptly turned off the screen, a mocking smile on my lips. Sincerity? Sincerity was the most worthless thing in the world. I had given my full heart, but I hadn't even received the slightest bit of basic respect in return. What right did Robert have to ask for my forgiveness? Seeing my distressed expression, the sisters gathered around me. They were usually quiet, but now they were competing to comfort me. "Eliza, don't worry. Now that you've returned to the convent, we are all your family. Leaving aside whether Robert has the ability to find his way here, even if he does, we will protect you with our lives. If he dares to come, we'll beat him out with sticks. How dare he bully you like this? Does he really think you have no one who cares about you?" They spoke indignantly, but I couldn't help but start crying. Under their alarmed gazes, I broke down and wept. The sisters awkwardly wiped away my tears. Eliza, do you still miss him? If you really can't let go, we can help you find him and make him promise to marry you in front of us, okay? But I shook my head, my voice firm. No, I won't see him again. I'm just too touched. I've had a difficult time this past few years, and I thought no one would care about me. Fortunately, thankfully, I still have you. I cried sadly, completely unaware that Mother Agnes, hidden behind the crowd, was quietly tearing up. She had watched me grow up and felt like a mother to me. How could she not feel for me? After crying, I was surrounded by the sisters and brought before Mother Agnes. Before she could speak, I suddenly knelt before her. Mother Agnes, now that my worldly affairs are settled, I only seek to enter the convent and spend my days and nights in a life of prayer and seclusion. Mother Agnes didn't agree immediately. She just looked at me with complex emotions in her eyes. After a long pause, she spoke softly. Eliza, if your heart is set, then I will help you take vows. However, please think about it for a few more days. Once you become a nun, you must sever all worldly desires and find peace in prayer. I eagerly wanted her to take vows for me immediately, but she shook her head and refused. I knew she was afraid I would regret it, and even more afraid that I would face difficult choices in the future. I didn't push further, just heavily prostrated myself several times. No matter what the future held, I would not regret it. But I also had to respect Mother Agnes's kindness. Fortunately, there was plenty of time, so there was no rush at this moment. I said nothing more, just calmly followed the sisters back to my room to rest. A week later, I came before Mother Agnes again and declared my decision. This time, she did not refuse. Instead, she led me to the Buddha statue. She carefully took out the razor, her eyes full of solemnity. Eliza, are you sure you've thought it through? Even if Robert finds his way here in the future, you won't waver? I looked directly into her eyes, my face full of determination. Mother Agnes, Robert and I have long severed ties. There will be no meeting again in the future. All right. She looked at me with approval and placed the razor against my hair. Even though I had already made up my mind, as my hair fell inch by inch, I couldn't help but tear up. The past 5 years played out before my eyes like a movie. Each scene made me even more resolute. As Mother Agnes shaved my head, she kept asking if I was truly sure I wouldn't regret it. Although she didn't say much, her trembling hands made me shed tears. Every time she asked, I answered firmly, no regrets. But halfway through the shaving, there was a sudden urgent knocking at the door. The sisters opened the door, looking puzzled. The next second, Robert's panicked voice came from outside the door. Eliza, why is your hair being cut like this? Robert's appearance stunned everyone. Mother Agnes stopped, looking at me with a complex expression. The sisters stood awkwardly by the door, unsure whether to let him in. But I felt only disgust. Robert, what are you doing here? He took a deep breath, pushed past the sisters blocking his way, and strode in. When he spoke, his voice was trembling uncontrollably. Eliza, I used every means to find you. Will you come back with me? He cautiously extended a hand, wanting to pull me into his embrace. But I pushed him away with an indifferent look. Robert, are you sick? Who told you to find me? Your wife is Chloe. You should be with her. It must have been hard for you to come all the way here. My tone was filled with indescribable sarcasm. But he didn't care, just looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Eliza, I told you, Chloe and I were just messing around. He took out a set of divorce papers from his pocket with a trembling hand and placed them before me. See, I've divorced her. Eliza, in my heart, the position of Mrs. Robert is only for you. I won't break my promise. He knelt before me, took out a diamond ring from his pocket, and tried to put it on my finger. I had longed for this moment for 5 years, dreamed of it countless times. But no. I felt only extreme nausea. I impatiently pulled my hand out of his palm. Under his astonished gaze, I peeled off the ring and threw it hard at his face. Robert, stop being crazy. Did you think I would wait for you forever? These past few years, you've hurt me enough. Now I'm about to enter the convent. Get lost, and stop bothering me." With that, I didn't look at him again, turning back and kneeling before Mother Agnes. Robert looked at my back in disbelief, unable to comprehend. Clearly, I was the one who loved him the most. For him, I was willing to hurt myself until I was covered in wounds. But now, when he finally turned back, he was shocked to realize I was no longer there. He couldn't understand, and he didn't want to. As long as he could win me back, he would abandon even his dignity. Robert crawled towards me on his knees, still wanting to plead with me. But someone hit him on the shoulder with a stick. He cried out in pain, covering his shoulder. He looked up and met the hateful eyes of the sisters. "You wretched man, you hurt Eliza like this, and you still have the nerve to chase after her. Perfect. We've been annoyed with you for a long time. Today, we'll avenge Eliza." Robert's eyes were filled with rage, and he struggled to his feet. "How dare you? I'm Eliza's fiancé, why can't I?" He couldn't finish his sentence before he was hit and stumbled back a few steps. After managing to regain his balance, he was furious. But this time, before he could speak, the sisters swung the sticks in their hands at him one after another. Robert gasped in pain as he was hit, staggering backward. The sisters didn't stop there, becoming even more vicious. They kept hitting him until he spat out a mouthful of blood, and then I spoke coldly. "Enough! Stop hitting him." Robert's face lit up with joy, and he stumbled towards me. "Eliza, I knew it, you do care about me. It's okay, I'm not afraid of being beaten. As long as you still love me, I'm willing to take any injury." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Me, care about you? Don't misunderstand. I just care about the sisters. After all, killing someone has legal consequences." My cold tone made Robert freeze in place. His eyes were filled with disbelief, as if he couldn't believe that I, who had always loved him deeply, would be so cruel to him. Looking at his trembling, helpless state, I felt no pity whatsoever. I just coldly asked him to leave. Seeing this, the sisters pushed and shoved him even more rudely, telling him to get out quickly. But he didn't do as I wished, instead clinging tightly to the doorframe. The once calm and composed Robert was completely gone. His eyes were filled with panic, and he pleaded with me, tears streaming down his face. "Eliza, I was wrong, I really was wrong. The doctor said I broke my spine, and if I jump into the sea again, it will cause me to be paralyzed for the rest of my life. But I'm not afraid. I will show you that only I truly love you. Wait for me. I'll jump 99 times, and on the 100th time, will you accept my proposal?" I had never seen him so utterly humble, and for a moment, I was taken aback. But after a brief pause, I returned to normal. I had given him 99 chances, and I had inflicted 99 injuries on myself. But in his eyes, they were all too cheap to matter. Such a man was not worthy of my forgiveness. I didn't speak, just used my eyes to signal the sisters to beat him out of the door. Seeing my emotionless face, they no longer held back. Robert's hand on the doorframe took a heavy blow from a stick and immediately swelled up. But he didn't let go at all. "Eliza, give me one more chance. I swear, I will never fail you again. I won't leave. Even if I'm beaten to death today, I won't leave. If I can't be with you, there's no meaning in living. If I die here, at least I can see you all the time." At this moment, I felt no tenderness whatsoever. I only felt that the man crying hysterically before me was completely unreasonable. Seeing that he wouldn't give up, I reluctantly told the sisters to stop. But I didn't give him any attention, just numbly asked Mother Agnes to continue the vows. The razor glided against my scalp, and the remaining strands of hair fell one by one. Behind me, I heard Robert's heartbreaking cries. "Eliza, please don't become a nun. I'll do anything you want, just don't give up on me. I really can't live without you." A smile appeared on my lips. It seemed Robert, in his high and mighty position, would never understand the truth that delayed affection is cheaper than grass. The moment the last strand of hair fell, I felt a sense of release. But Robert rushed towards me recklessly. Even though he was knocked down to the ground repeatedly, he stubbornly crawled towards me. In the midst of the chaos, Chloe's weak cry suddenly sounded from outside the door. "Robert! How dare you hit him?" Crying like a weeping pear blossom, she pushed through the crowd and rushed towards Robert. When the sisters realized she was Chloe, they couldn't help but scoff. But she seemed unaware, just desperately shielding Robert with her body. "Robert, it's okay if Eliza doesn't care about you, you still have me." But before she could finish, Robert kicked her away. "Get out! What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you never to appear before Eliza again?" After a moment of stunned silence, she cried even more aggrievedly. "Robert, didn't you say you would be with me forever? Since Eliza doesn't want you, why don't you truly marry me? It would fulfill your childhood promise." She spoke with growing excitement, even her crying stopped abruptly. But the next moment, Robert grabbed her by the neck, his eyes filled with hatred. "You bitch, keep spouting nonsense and see if I don't tear your mouth apart. If you hadn't kept clinging to me, why would my Eliza not want me? Get out! If you dare to appear before us again, I won't let you off. Get out!" Chloe froze completely. In the past, she had been protected too well by Robert. She thought she was the winner and always looked down on me. But now, without fighting or vying, I had still captured Robert's heart. After a long moment of shock, she slowly got up amidst Robert's roars. But she didn't turn and leave as he said. Chloe looked at me with resentment. Turning around, she rushed straight towards Mother Agnes. Amidst shouts of alarm, she suddenly snatched the razor from Mother Agnes's hand. Before we could react, she held the blade to her own neck. "Robert, I clearly love you more than Eliza. Why can't you see my sincerity? Since you don't want me, there's no need for me to live anymore. I hope my death can earn Eliza's forgiveness. I wish you both a long and happy life together." She sounded extremely wronged, but she hesitated to act. Everyone watched her coldly. After a moment of silence, she looked pitifully at Robert. "Robert, can you really bear to see me die?" I thought Robert would show a hint of softness. But to my surprise, he just sneered. "Then go ahead and die. Once you're dead, no one will upset Eliza anymore. As long as I don't give up, she'll be moved by me someday." Robert's indifferent tone provoked Chloe. She looked at him in disbelief. When she turned her face towards me, her eyes were full of malice. In a daze, she had already lunged at me. The cold razor pierced my neck, making me scream in pain. Robert completely panicked. He roared and lunged at Chloe, snatching the blade from her hand. At that moment, he seemed to lose all reason. He just numbly plunged the blade into her heart. One stab after another, until his entire face was covered in splattered blood. The blood stained his eyes red, making him look even more terrifying. It wasn't until Chloe could no longer let out a single scream that he weakly dropped the weapon. Under my shocked gaze, he looked up and gave me a tragic smile. "Eliza, I won't let anyone hurt you. Even if it costs me my life, I will protect you." I didn't answer, just emotionlessly dialed the police. As the police pinned him to the ground, Robert struggled desperately, just to lift his head and look at me one last time. "Eliza, have you forgiven me?" Under his hopeful gaze, I slowly shook my head. As I brushed past him, I leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Robert, I regret ever loving you. In the next life, let's not meet again." The deep affection of the past had long vanished. And I was no longer the person who had loved him so deeply back then. From now on, the rest of my life is a new beginning.